Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishabhai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So let's start. I was practicing yoga for some years in a school here in Brazil, and this guru that I had a very big library with lots of books from yoga teachers all over the world. And I found Swami Satyananda Sarasvati's books, the most interesting books that he had. And well, just to jump over already, I was invited to this meeting in Rio where lots of authorities in spirituality were going to talk. And Dharma was there at that time, and he was not even supposed to give this first speech, but one of the teachers that was supposed to give the first speech wasn't there, so he gave this first speech. And he was introduced as one of Swami Satyananda's students. That was very curious to me. I was like, what? I have one of Satyananda's students in here. That's so incredible. And I had the opportunity to talk to him right after the speech. And one of the first things that got me when we were talking was that he said that, I mean, being a vegetarian or a vegan had nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever, and that you're not more evolved spiritually if you don't eat meat. That was something that after 15 years without eating meat, I was like, what? Are you serious? How could that be, you know? And we had the opportunity to talk more, and I later on ended up going to his
15 years?
Yeah, after 15 years of
without
being
meat.
Without meat, being a vegan for 7 years, from 14 to 28. I turned 28 when I was living with him in Thailand. And I remember to this day, the first time I had I think it was pork ribs or something. It was as if like my whole body was waking up again. And it was incredible.
I've heard this before.
Yeah, it was incredible. I felt so alive, and it was it was instant. And well, yeah, so that's a way that I have to introduce myself as a practitioner, as one of his students, and to say, not that I was convinced, but that I was showed that I have like a wrong view about what spirituality really was. And he was the person that introduced me to this more broad view of what actually being alive means. And that's how I can relate to him regarding this subject. And yeah, what else?
The spiritual path of the mainstream thinking nowadays is connected to the plant-based diet, right?
Yeah.
The mainstream.
Everybody thinks that.
Because they say meat's bad for health, meat's bad for spiritual health.
Right.
They also say that it's not pure because the bad treatment to animals and death.
The killing. Yeah.
The killing, yes. And it's bad for the environment also, they said. How do you see these questions, Dharma?
They're big, right? These are big questions.
Yeah.
So there's many ways to unpack this understanding. One of the ways is to look at who is saying vegetarianism for spirituality is important. Western thinkers or Eastern? Mostly it was Eastern, right? Okay, when did that come about? 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. Okay. Did most everybody follow it in the East? No. Was it a rule that everybody had to comply with? Only a few schools had like that. Was expunged from India pretty much, and whenever other places, people often remained vegetarian or thinking it was higher at least, even if they cheat. So, I lived in India a long time, and you go out on the street in Varanasi, the oldest city in the world, you go out at night on the street, and then the pushcart comes out. Some meat, some fish, some boiled eggs being sold, and everybody sneaks out and goes home. It's quite funny. So we look at it historically, it doesn't make sense. It was just a kind of a political mind-washing, brainwashing. Yeah. And then, of course, in modern times, people think it's not good for the body, and so forth. And so how do we deal with this question of, I think you said in there, is bad karma?
Yeah.
If we're killing the animals, right? If we think this way, then we have a fundamental denial of our human existence. And if our
nature.
Yeah. If our spirituality, if your spiritual path and my spiritual path is to escape being a human, if we think there's a fundamental flaw in being human, then we can't become enlightened as a human. We have to be transhuman. We got to be out somehow, some spiritual alien, right? So in general, that's called transcendentalism. Those ideas are very strong in Buddhism and Vedanta, which are very much the prevalent systems of thought that came out of India in great force and went around the world and met with a lot of acceptance and so forth. But if you have another view, a more ancient view, from the Vedas into Tantra, not from the Brahmins, because the Brahmins were doing the Buddhism, were doing the Vedanta. 5% of India, right? 95% of people were tribals or tantrikas, this thing called Tantra. And Tantra was a way of life and a spiritual practice that embraced humanness and said there's a way for us as humans to become enlightened by embracing our nature,
Yes.
our spiritual nature and our physical nature, both. Because if you don't, you create a conflict in yourself, right? And so Tantra said, meat eating is fine, it's your orientation towards the meat. Are you torturing the animal? Are you mistreating the animal? Are you bad to the animal? This is bad. Makes bad karma. And that's true. We can eat fish, we can eat beef, we can whatever, but we should be beautiful to them.
Yeah.
Until the moment they taken.
Yeah.
Which is why all of the ancient ones that we see examples of were hunters, not farmers, who made meat in bad conditions and then slaughtered it. So one of the things for spiritual congruity with spiritual life and physical life is not that we eat meat or not, but that we eat meat that is hunted whenever possible. Mm-hmm. So this is one way we can live more in line with the truth of nature this way and not be cruel.
Yeah.
So whenever possible, I want to get hunted meat, which is why I'm moving to Maine, where they have a tremendous amount of deer and bear and moose and elk and fish. And we're going to just hunt all the time. Fill up the freezer, go again in 2 months. Fill up the freezer, go again in 2 months. Like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we cover all the points? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
About the environment.
Yeah.
You said earlier.
Yeah.
about environment.
This is a big thing, isn't it? If I'm going to be spiritual, I have to care for the earth.
Yeah.
And I believe that. You know, I'm part Native American. I believe that for sure. And I was trained by shamans in Native America and so forth. One of our foundation practices in our system, the 12 practices we do as a foundation to higher meditation practice, we have a prayer to the earth. Mm-hmm. So then people would say, well, Dharma, then for sure you don't want to eat meat because look how it's destroying the planet.
Yeah.
And when you really look at that scientifically, it's not true. It's simply not true. If you examine it with an open mind and look at the real data,
Yeah.
it's not true. It's not true at all. In fact, unfortunately, the more I looked at it, I felt like the opposite was true.
yeah, what is not destroying Earth in terms of mass production of food, right? Producing food in mass, like be it vegetables or whatever else, is terrible. Right?
I think
Anyway.
the great problem is grains.
Grains.
Grains, yeah.
Grains, yeah.
Grains
Yeah.
production
Yeah,
is not natural.
yeah, but anything, you know. We're so many people in a small planet. Like a biologist friend of mine once said, that, like we're like a plague because there are too many. So it's the industry has to mass produce, and mass production leads to the necessity of remedies like DDT and all of those Monsanto things to produce more and to lose less. And what destroys more or less? This is hard. It's a hard thing to answer. You know, it's not that easy.
It's not that easy, but a lot of good research I looked at recently with a non-biased view, because I don't really take positions. I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
Looks to be leaning towards, I think, vegetable production is not good for the ecology, much worse than meat production. And when you think about it, the meat production is so calorie nutrient dense, the meat you get. People say, well, it uses all these gallons of water and all this food to make this animal. Yeah, but that animal carries around the nutrient from all that. Instead, I have to consume all these plants and all these rice, and you have to grow the fields and fields of it for me. It's very different. One view. The other view is the pure ethical side. When you're cultivating plants and you're taking those big cultivators down the rows of plants and cultivating, you're killing millions of animals. Not just insects. Many mammals.
Small animals.
Rabbits and
you destroy every habitat when you try to make farming, big industrial scale farming, right?
The soil.
Exactly.
Actually,
So that's not very good for nature. In the end, it's not good for our body or our connection to nature. Therefore, our spirituality, right?
Yeah.
Great.
You know, when you talk about is the spiritual path blocked by eating meat? Again, we go back to, do we accept our humanity as a path to enlightenment?
Yeah.
If we do, then we look at our teeth. They're sharp and pointy. They're for tearing meat. You look at the back, they're for grinding. So we're omnivore. We're ultimate top of the food chain because we can eat anything.
Yeah.
It was a good adaptation. But our digestive system is definitely not a vegetarian digestive system.
Definitely.
Neither are our teeth, right? When you have everything go into a pool of acid when you first eat, that tells you the primary is protein digestion, right? So meat, not tofu. Animals don't make tofu.
Yeah.
Okay, soy stuff. So yeah, we were designed for this meat eating. And my professors in school that were vegetarians would argue, and I'd say, but you're denying the basic physiology and anatomy of a human being. Yeah. Again, it comes back to that fundamental reality. Do you want to be in your body, and is that a path to enlightenment or not? Which I know is one of the things we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's the word in itself. Protein means that which comes first, right? So I mean, most of what we eat should be that, right? From the very substantive, the very name in it, noun. The noun means that.
There is no life without death.
No life without
That
death
too.
as well. Yeah.
That too.
There is no life. And how does that meat-based diet impact in your life and your yoga practice when you switch?
Yeah.
You've been vegan before, right?
Not
Or
vegan. I was
vegetarian?
never vegan. I was vegetarian from when I was 13 to 15. 2 years.
2 years.
I was very conscious as a kid, didn't want to harm the animals, although our family was a hunting family. I didn't want to have the farm, I didn't want to partake in the karma. I read many books. I can get all my complete proteins from mixing my bread with my lentils, my rice with Okay, so I'll be vegetarian. I read a book from somebody in New York, Gary Null. It was Protein for Vegetarians, way back in the 70s. And I got involved heavily. So I started studying the biochemistry. I was a young person really into biochemistry in my teenage years. So I went vegetarian. But I was a wrestler, and wrestling is a really tough sport. And you really got to train hard. Lots of calorie expenditure, lots of protein, muscle breakdown from training. And I found I got skinnier and skinnier each year instead of stronger and stronger. I got weaker and weaker. And eventually I said, it doesn't work for me. So I went back to meat. But then fast forward, 1993 is the first time, that was about 1973, 75 when I quit being vegetarian, 77. And then fast forward to 1993, my friends and I who were doing spiritual work as tantric yogins, saying the body can become realized as a Buddha through the body, we started to develop this thing we called hunter-gatherer diet. That's what it was early 90s. And we were on the edge of it. There was only a few people in the world that were looking at this. So we created the hunter-gatherer soup. So we'd take all these veggies, meats, and make this big soup. And we'd make this and eat this like 2-3 times a day. So in the beginning, most times we did it without grains. Just a little bit of cheese, some fruit, that was about it, and meat. Then we experimented more and went total carnivore. 2-3 months at a time, 4 months at a time, then back to mixing a little bit. But always with we had the idea that grains were the bad carb, that grains were going to cause a bit of a problem somehow. And we didn't know way back then, but we know now that we were right, that the brown rice and the extra hull on all these substances has a tremendous amount of toxins. Yeah. And they tear your guts apart. And they give you leaky gut. I'm sure all your followers know leaky gut.
Leaky gut, yes.
And then they're going to get autoimmune disease. So, I was going back and forth with these diets. And sometimes I got lazy or too busy with it with my work and stuff. Over time, for having food allergies I didn't recognize early enough because I didn't do the blood tests, I developed leaky gut. Leaky gut then turned into my body fighting against itself because it's often one of the main precursors to autoimmune disease. And I ended up with autoimmune disease. Now, it was life or death, carnivore or die. Because they know my people who take care of me with food and things know how many things I can't eat. It's very difficult to cook me anything fun in the outer world's view of fun cuisine because I have so many restrictions. And plus we know how carnivore is so great at killing inflammation. If we don't reheat it, overcook it, which raises the histamines, you know, now my body has a chance to take the histamines down, get inflammation down. This and some other therapies I was doing took away this autoimmune disease. And I can tell you, because I'm highly trained in Western medicine sciences, right, that there is no Western medical cure for this disease. Just like Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela.
Yeah, Michaela.
There was no cure for hers. There's no cure for mine. 1 out of 200 people have mine. And it went away. Completely eradicated. This is something we need to teach people. It's beautiful. It seems to be a miracle. It's common sense for us. It's common sense, right? Yeah. We take away the plant toxins. We take away the stress on the body from that. I realized that every nutrient known to man that I could ever possibly need is in a cow. Mm-hmm. Especially if I eat nose to tail.
Nose to tail.
Yeah.
We know that one.
Yeah.
And then that's it. So that was my main therapy. And it changed my life again, going back into it since 1993, in and out. Now I'm probably in forever. That kind of thing is, this is the way. I don't want to get that disease back. Healing my gut. Do I cheat? Yeah, I cheat sometimes because it's fun. Yeah. Once a month, once a week, but not much.
How about you?
Yeah, in my case, we're lucky that technology allowed us to have the record of the blood works that you've done during your life. And when I was a vegan, my grandfather was a doctor. I don't know how he allowed me to be a vegan, but yeah, he would ask me to give him my blood work every 6 months, 1 year. And before I was flying to India to stay out for like a year, he said, hey, I think you should take your blood work again for me to check. And well, he had never done that before, but this time he called me home and said, hey, come here, I need to show you something. And it was the very first time he got one of those old books from doctors that are old as he was. He opened the book with the topic with a specific kind of anemia for the lack of B12 vitamin. And he said, you should read about this. You're smart enough and see if you want that for yourself. And I was looking around me while I was reading. I was just having in my mind all the people that were vegans long term, that I had like as friends, as mentors as well. They were having those symptoms show up in their lives. And I said, yeah, I don't have that for myself. And I became I got back to eating eggs and milk right away. I got like a supplement and I was like, what? It was kind of like a vegan hippie, you know? And I was like, I'm taking external laboratory supplements. What kind of hippie am I?
There's no sense.
And I went to Thailand to with him, and it took me a while. I had this vegan identity, you know, dreadlocks and long beard and all this kind of stuff. And it was like he was making fun of me all the time. Come on, shave this head. Oh my God. You know, but I was like, yeah, I need something more than that. And after 5 months living with him, I came back home as a carnivore already. I did low carb 3 months straight, took blood work. Ketogenic 3 months straight, blood work. Carnivore strict, like meat and water, 3 months straight, took blood work. And I showed that to my grandpa. He said, yeah, you were looking like a 45-year-old when you were like 27, 26. Now you look like a 20-year-old and you're 35. You know,
this is a really important thing, right?
Yeah, and I have this. I mean, this is something that I can show.
You can show. It's true, right? And for your listeners, you know, I think it's important if there's new people just joining your carnivore group, you have to know that this is the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I do my blood work here because it's quite good in Brazil. I come from America to teach here, and I do my blood work here. They're good hospitals for it. And so we did it in June last year. Was it October? I can't remember. October last year. And I was pretty strict on meat and water at that time, pretty much. I wasn't cheating as much. And when it came back, the doctor who runs the test, she was like, you know, these are the inflammation markers of like a 12-year-old, 10-year-old.
Same for me.
You know, and I was 60 years old.
You take someone else's blood to you.
Yeah, like that, right? and we were very impressed. And even I blew the fasting glucose test because I ate. I forgot, I ate. But I take it anyway, see. It still came in range. Yeah. Just ate a meal.
And
It was amazing.
in my case, the endocrinologist that I went to ask for the tests, the request, she was like, "Okay, you're here because you're taking steroids and blah blah blah." I'm like, "What? I'm not taking steroids." And she was, "No, your testosterone levels are the levels of someone that's coming off of steroids, you know." And I know this is the bridge for your next question, right?
Yes.
The politically correct culture, but yeah, that was something curious. No, she was like, "Of course you're on steroids. That's unreal for a 35-year-old."
Well, when you watch that video of that complete, what can we call it? A propaganda video for vegetarianism. What's it called? By that MMA fighter that was made.
Yeah.
That
Game changer.
Game changer.
The game changer.
Game changer. Total BS.
Yeah.
Total bullshit. Okay. Oh, these guys can't get erections. They go vegetarian, they get erection. I mean, that's a way to sell something for sure, right? Not true, but yeah, you see that a lot now. I hear it a lot as propaganda to get people to go
totally the
vegetarian.
opposite. I didn't want to have sex at a point when I was a vegan.
Got no testosterone.
Yeah, and I had my wife was like, "What's happening?" I said, "I just can't. I just don't want it. I don't feel the urge." And I went to ask them, the mentors, they were like, "No, that's what we want. You become an angel. Angels don't have sex."
You're leaving your body.
No!
You're denying your nature.
Existence here, human
You're
existence,
human.
as he was saying. Yeah.
And you did participate in a movie.
Yeah, the Game Changers debunked. A guy.
You were in that movie?
Yeah, I'm there. I
gotta look.
Yeah, there's this guy Brian Sanders. He was collecting stories from vegans, ex-vegans, previous vegans, and I spoke for like a minute and a half. And I told.
Did it get in, or is it in the cutting room floor? I gotta look. I gotta look.
It's there's three people that had longer stories like shown, but mine was like just a minute or two that I was talking about this fact that I was a vegan and I had the blood work, this difference of the testosterone. That's what I said.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to the me culture. There are other questions running out in our lives that drive us not a very good place, in that testosterone is one.
Yeah.
The
testosterone
low
level is
level
going down.
is going down, yes. And the power dynamic and this vegan propaganda and things like this. Could you please tell us?
Elaborate on.
There's kind of a theme that runs through it all, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a theme of ideas overriding nature.
Overwriting nature.
Yeah, that's
Right, we don't structure our political and social ideas anymore based on what's natural and has common reality sense and logic to it, right? We have a lot of crazy ideas coming out now. We call it woke culture in America. And it's really influencing everybody. And I think vegetarianism, veganism is just another ism that's part of that whole spectrum of conceptual reconstruction of the universe, because what's the biggest theory nowadays? Everything is a social construct. Have you heard that before? Everything is a social construct, meaning there's no real inherent value to the idea that he's male, I'm male, she's female. We make up that idea. We make up the value. There's no inherent value to the idea that humans have to eat meat. We can make up what we want.
Yeah.
Well, you can try. And that's what we're doing now. Unfortunately, many people are experimenting this way, causing changes in all of society, changes in thinking, changes of acting on a societal level and individual levels. You can try, but you'll fail, because the body is the body, nature is nature, and we don't evolve that fast. Not that fast.
Yeah, that's it. It's so many. It's 2 million years of humans as we know it. Yeah, around like against what, 10,000?
Yeah. Well, this new thinking, 50 years
or 50,
40 years since postmodernism and all that. So
post-truth.
And look at the effect. Like I said, it's all woven together. You start thinking transcendental enough, and you get the laws in there that say there is no base reality, no standard of truth in the biological, physical, chemical reality of this world. Spirituality is out here, not here, because that's what they're all thinking, higher thinking. This turns everything upside down. And now we have low testosterone as a result, societally, globally. And it's very possible within 3 generations we won't be able to reproduce. And people are not talking about it because it's too utterly terrifying. But yet that's what happens when you deny the reality of the physical body, the reality of how we should be living, thinking, acting, and we go more and more transcendental. Men feminize, women masculinize, testosterone goes down, the viability of life slowly goes away on a macro level. These issues are there. When men work out hard, when they eat meat, when they are spiritualizing, when they do care for the planet because they eat meat, hunters are the people that I know that really want to care for the planet more than anybody I know, hunters, right?
Of course.
When they do this, a natural balance is instituted. But when you feminize men, when you make it wrong to be a strong man in the culture, it throws everything out of balance. When you say it's wrong to eat meat, you deny your biology. Look, I saw this with my students over the years. This is not science, but it is empirical science for me. Thousands of students I've had. The vegetarian ones are spaced out. The vegetarian ones don't manifest a great purpose in life, and they're not able to really contribute to humanity. If meat eating is so bad, how come the people that are strong and have a strong sensitive self as a human, are the ones who actually end up contributing, who can actually do something in the world? Now, I also want to say I'm not against vegetarians or vegans or against the ideology. I'm just after what is the personal truth for each person, all right? I don't think there's a strong basis for everybody being vegetarian scientifically. I started out as a biochemist, a biologist in college, so I don't see a strong basis of it scientifically. So, okay, now convince me why vegetarian's better. And I haven't seen the evidence. But if you tell me you like vegetables, I mean, I like Chinese food. I love going to big veggie dishes because they taste interesting, crunchy. I love it. I do. Do I think it's good for me? No, I call it a cheat, you know. But if you think it's really good for you and you really want to do that and you're thriving because of it, you're going to be a good person and you're going to be able to contribute to the world. And then I'm all for whatever you're doing. Our message, I think, here is if you're not thriving, if you have autoimmune disease, if you have weak energy, not strong, not clear in the mind. Every single person that I taught who changed from vegetarianism, taught as a spiritual teacher to my students, taught them meditation or yoga, Kriya Yoga, whatever. When they changed from vegetarian to meat, they had an immediate grounding of the spiritual experience into their everyday life, an immediate clarifying of their mind, because they realized they were running on what? Serotonins. We know there's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
Vegetarians are eating what? Carbs, giving themselves diabetes, at the very least high blood sugar of some sense, hyperglycemia to some degree, and stimulating serotonins all the time in the brain, which is a sleep chemical. So they're a bit dazed, in the world. So then why, when people first get on vegetarian, they feel so good, spiritually, physically? Because they're cleaning out. Because they're paying attention to their diet for the first time.
They're eating real food.
Because they're exercising for the first time. They're eating real food instead of packaged food.
Yeah.
So they throw the baby out with the bathwater, we say in English, right?
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're just getting clean. And they have a built-up reserve of fat for energy, so they're not feeling so much loss, But what happens long-term? All of these people, like the guy who did Game Changers, why he's not credible is that everybody in mixed martial arts or in football, American football, or high-level sports where it takes a lot of power and energy, they may go vegan for a while because they buy the hype and they clean out a bit, and then they all go back to meat. Every single person like that is now eating meat again. You can track it in football, baseball, basketball, fighting sports, because it's not sustainable.
And most of them, like they showed injuries, serious injuries.
More injuries too.
Their bones were weaker and stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're going to the
end part,
yes,
towards the end.
Part. Do you think yoga has to do training the mind through the body? And could you send your special message, like the gold advice for who is listening us?
Okay. So in our system of tantric yoga, the ancient system of understanding the natural way to become highly realized, we would call enlightened, but not spaced out, and grounded, integrated enlightenment, we work with the body. We work with the energy of the body and emotion, and we work with the mind. Those three gateways, we call them doorways, go into something that is beyond our mind, that mysterious thing we call our enlightened essence or nature, right? And it's a grounded reality. It's not out somewhere else. It's right here. It's just covered up. The experience of it is covered up because our minds are so messed up, chemically speaking, as well. drugs, bad eating, and so forth. So no exercise. So the first thing is, in the body, we have this principle that the body is primary in practice, not a secondary thought, and definitely not to be left behind like transcendentalism, not to dissociate from the body, but a primary vehicle to realize our nature and who we really are. The first step of that is cleaning up its chemistry. So you're not spaced out, right? So you can actually function with clarity, with strength, with energy, smooth energy all day long. You know, meat is smooth energy. Carbs is bup, bup, bup. It's like shooting up every time, bup, bup, bup. So we clean up the chemistry. We change the energy pathways in the body towards ketones more, towards fat more in general, right? Now you get smooth delivery, protein stabilizing the blood sugar. So yeah, the body is crucial in the path. It's one of the three components, and it's the first one we attend to. That's why people are supposed to do yoga. Mm-hmm. Yoga helps the body get stronger and flexible, increases blood circulation, takes down inflammation, causes healing, builds up strength. When the muscle's at its longest position and you're holding, that's yoga. It builds long muscle position strength. It's one of the best for that. In that process, we start to become grounded and really inhabit our body more and understand it as the basis for life itself. You can go through life as a cut-off head, like on a platter, having concepts about life, or you can go through life, experience it directly through the body and its energy and sensations. That's the basis for our whole spiritual path. It's crucial. And our masters who achieved, we would say, the highest levels of enlightenment ever, and still do it precisely by saying you have to be in the body. A great female master of ours back in the 800s said, very famously, she said, if there's no enlightenment of the body, there's no enlightenment. So those three, body, energy, and mind, all three aspects of a human have to be brought to the level of enlightenment, including the body. And I think the carnivore diet for today, at least the carnivore strategy for today that you talk about, is a very smart way you talk about it, because it's what's your strategy? You know, I take jungle honey. I found it to be a medicine for me. It's not much carbs. It doesn't kill my sugars. You know, it doesn't, especially when I have it with the meat. It's like, it's inside, sequestered inside all this fat and protein. Jungle honey seems to give me something I need, because I take very little and it changes me a lot. And I live in Costa Rica now, even though I'm moving to Maine, and I'm very big on a few pieces of pineapple, a bit of papaya as well every day. That's 95% of my diet right there. Meat, bone broth, bones, organs. I eat a lot of organs: heart, liver, spleen, lungs, kidneys, testicles, thymus, thyroid. No brain. It's not allowed in Costa Rica. I would if it wasn't. Here too? For mad cow, right? Yeah. So I do all the other ones, eat nose to tail, and take those few little other types of foods. I don't take any dairy because I'm allergic. Otherwise, I'd probably eat cheese and, raw milk. And I just have that. So it's a strategy. But it's mostly carnivore, 95%, sometimes 90%, sometimes 99%, Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the way to spirituality for us.
Yeah, that's what we call carnivore strategy. Mm-hmm. It's not carnivore diet like lion diet, like only meat. Mm-hmm. But it's based on meat.
Yeah, it's meat-based diet.
Yeah,
instead
meat-based
of like
diet.
A plant-based diet.
But in a long term, in a very big percentual of meat.
Yeah.
It's not
most of what you eat
yeah.
is meat or animals.
Okay. How can people find more about your work? About Trika Mahāsiddha Yoga?
Okay. We have a Facebook group that's fairly active where I post things now and then. My students post things now and then. That's one way. We have a YouTube channel with lots of free classes, tons of free information. We're big on getting it out there, including questions like this come up on that channel. And we have the website where people can go on as a resource. There's a lot of things they can learn right away, start practicing right away. They can download the PDF and start using the meditations, the prayers, different things like that. And they can actually buy courses that are online, that are pre-recorded or live, and find out about when they can come in person and train as well.
And there's some material that is translated to Portuguese already.
Yeah.
Both on YouTube, and we're finishing some of the main foundation courses.
Right. The ongoing translation to Portuguese of the materials is there.
Yeah.
And I have a commitment to come to teach in Brazil at least twice a year. We do wonderful trainings at a place called A Chakra. So if you live in Vitória, Vila Vieja, something like that, you go to Achakra, and you can look it up online. There's a website, right? And this is a place where you can get in touch with this system. There's somebody there who owns it and runs it, who's a close personal student of mine and in training to become an acharya, become a lineage holder someday. And so I like to come here and teach through here as well. That's how we found each other.
I'm gonna send the links on the comments. Okay.
Cool.
And to finish, I would like to thank you a lot
for
this opportunity to learn a little more and
wonderful
and bring knowledge for people about the spirituality and broke this myth about vegan.
It's very common in Brazil.
What you're doing is so good. All you people, you don't know how lucky to hear that somebody is helping you with this understanding of how to become a better human being in your body with this way of eating, this strategy, and to know that it's not against spirituality. This is an important message. It can transform you, can transform society.
It was freedom for me, this message, you know, because I was like, I'm against my spiritual
nature.
Because I hate meat.
It's hard. It's hard.
I feel in my heart I'm not, but that's what I heard a lot, right?
There's a lot of pressure on us, and thank you for the invitation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Ok? Cool. Galera, é isso aí. Obrigado aí pela audiência e até mais.